In this module, we'll get into acid and base chemistry and in general how we calculate the pH of a reaction. This week, we'll just have one homework assignment due. We'll have the homework assignment associated with equilibrium due on Sunday night. So just determining equilibrium, what does that mean, and then the calculations that we worked on together in class on Tuesday. Don't worry too much about this. I think I've done a pretty good job of removing the material that we need for this semester. Today we're going to talk about acid-base chemistry, and it's important, and here's an example of why it's important, and it's ocean acidification. So pre-industrial revolution, the pH of the ocean was about 8.2. Today, the pH is about 8.1, and it's projected to be about 7.7 by the year 2100. And we'll talk about why this is significant, because the pH scale, as we'll see in a little bit, is a log scale. So the difference between 8.1, 8.2, you might think that's a small difference. That difference is actually 10 times bigger than it looks, because this is a log-based 10 scale used to determine pH. Where does this change come from? This change comes from the other consequence of increasing concentrations of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. As we increase the concentration of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere, that changes this equilibrium between atmospheric carbon dioxide and dissolved carbon dioxide in the water. The consequence of that is this carbon dioxide reacts with water, forms carbonic acid, and there we can see here is the acid that we're forming that's changing the pH, making the ocean more acidic. We can see there's another equilibrium. The carbonic acid will ionize to give us the bicarbonate. The problem with this is the pH of the ocean has been established for 10,000 years. It hasn't changed significantly in that 10,000 year span. Making it more acidic has a big impact on other things within the ocean, and here's an example of that. So things like mollusks, oysters, clams, coral, all of those use calcium carbonate to make their shell or for the coral to make that structure. This calcium carbonate has an equilibrium as well with the water to give us calcium ions and carbonate ions in solution. And so here's the problem. Carbonate is a base. And so if we make water more acidic, we basically make a new reaction where we can protonate off that carbonate to make bicarbonate. And the consequence of that, thinking of Le Chatelier's principle, right? If we remove something from a system at equilibrium, the equilibrium moves in a way to replace what was lost. And so that forces more calcium carbonate or allows more calcium carbonate to go into solution. That makes it harder for things like mollusks and clams and oysters and coral to build the solid calcium carbonate they need to survive. In general, a quick review of acid and base chemistry that we talked about last semester in Chem 106. In general, we looked at acid-base chemistry very simply, and we just focused on looking at something that has a proton, something that has a hydroxide, and that's how we characterize an acid and a base. So from last semester, right, an acid can donate a proton, and by a proton, I mean H plus in solution. So adding an acid to solution will increase the proton concentration, the H plus concentration. So something like HCl, for example, when we add HCl into water, we get hydronium and chloride. The hydronium is formed because HCl is an acid and it's going to donate that proton to water, forming hydronium. So yes, we're looking for this proton, but more often we're going to see this proton represented by H3O+, which is hydronium, because the acid has donated that proton to water. And very simply, we talked about a base as something that can increase the hydroxide concentration in solution. So something very straightforward like sodium hydroxide. We add sodium hydroxide to water, and it's going to ionize solid sodium hydroxide. It's going to give us a sodium and a hydroxide ion. And so that would make that a base because we've increased hydroxide concentration. As we're going to see moving forward, we need a little bit different definition for acid-base chemistry to help us recognize other things as bases. And that's the Bronsted-Lowry definition. There, we're just going to focus on proton transfer. So in that case, a Bronsted-Lowry acid is very much the same. It's the source of protons in solution, but it is the proton donor. And in this case, the Bronsted-Lowry base is going to be the proton acceptor. And so HCl still works as our acid because HCl can react with water. We form hydronium, and we're going to form chloride as a result of that. And again, the acid, the HCl, is our proton donor. I donate this, I'm going to give it to water, turning water into hydronium, H3O+. This new definition of Bronsted-Lowry base helps us see other things as bases. So something like ammonia, you might look at ammonia and say, I don't know if that's a base or not, because when we looked at sodium hydroxide, it was easy enough to see that hydroxide was present, and so sure, that should increase the concentration of hydroxide in solution. Ammonia is also a base because when it reacts with water, the product of that reaction, so ammonia is a base, it's going to be a proton acceptor, so it's going to take a proton from water. So the product of that reaction is ammonium, NH4+, and because water lost a proton, the other product of that reaction is hydroxide. So in this case, we still generate hydroxide in solution, but we're instead focusing on the transfer of protons. That brings us back to the reaction we started with. We started looking at carbonic acid reacting with water to form hydronium and bicarbonate. And then the second step of that, we also talked about carbonate. Carbonate from calcium carbonate, it can react with water to form bicarbonate and hydroxide. So now we can classify each of these parts of a reaction as either an acid or a base. And so again, remember our definition that an acid is a proton donor. So that would make carbonic acid our acid in solution, because you notice that from here to here, it loses one proton. It donates a proton. So that makes it our acid. So by default, that would make water our base in this reaction, because that's going to be our proton acceptor. And so we can see that H2O, H3O+. How did it do that? By gaining a proton. In all acid-base reactions, we're also going to have a conjugate acid-base. And so in this reaction, water and hydronium are linked because my base in the forward reaction needs to behave like an acid in the reverse reaction. So that makes this the conjugate acid. And then my acid in the forward reaction needs to behave like a base in the reverse reaction. So that would make bicarbonate my conjugate base. In the reverse reaction, right, it's going to accept a proton. It's going to behave like a base because it's going to take a proton to reform carbonic acid. In all acid-base reactions, you need an acid, you need a base, and in the reverse reaction, the acid will always form a conjugate base. It also always needs to behave like a base in the reverse reaction. It can't be an acid both directions. And then the base always needs to form the acid, the conjugate acid, because again, it can't have the same reactivity both directions. In the next one, we've got carbonate. Carbonate to go to bicarbonate, that gains a proton, so that would make this our proton acceptor or our base. And then by default, if that's our base, in this case, water must be the acid. So that would make bicarbonate the conjugate acid, because in the reverse reaction, right, it's going to donate a proton to form carbonate. And then if water is my acid in the reverse reaction, hydroxide needs to be my conjugate base, because it's going to accept a proton in the reverse reaction. One thing kind of interesting here to point out is the reactivity of water. Water is unique in that it can behave like both an acid and a base depending on the conditions. So that's very helpful for us physiologically, because water can behave like a base, it can behave like an acid. It helps us move protons around in our body because it can serve both roles. Depending on the conditions, it can be an acid and donate a proton. Depending on the conditions, it can be a base and accept a proton. We call that amphiprotic, right? The ability to behave like both an acid or a base, depending on the conditions. And so here's that example with water. Water can behave like an acid. It can be a proton donor, so it's going to lose a proton, forming hydroxide. Water can also behave like a base, and if it behaves like a base, it's a proton acceptor. So if we add in another proton, it forms hydronium. But it can have both reactivities depending on the conditions of the reaction. So one quick question for you: what is the conjugate base of bicarbonate? Given the reaction, bicarbonate reacts with water to form something and hydronium. So what would that product, what would the conjugate base be of bicarbonate? And if we're looking for the conjugate base, that must make this the acid, and that would make this the base. And a base is a proton acceptor, and an acid is a proton donor, so that means this needs to be losing that proton. So that would make the conjugate base of bicarbonate carbonate, which would be choice C. The other thing we can do is this has to be a balanced equation. So if we notice here, I've got 2 protons here, 1 proton here. I have to have 3 protons total on this side. If I look on this side, I already have 3 protons there. So that would disqualify A, B, and D, because any of those choices, if I put those in, that would give you an unbalanced equation.